Alright guys, KK4PYN back again with you here. And today I wanted to look at some Linux stuff. In a video I had quite a while ago, I showed you some SDR software running on Andy's Ham Radio Linux. And I kind of did a little bit of a tour. That was an older version. What we're going to look at today is the new version of Andy's Ham Radio Linux, which is version 21. So let's go in and take a look at that. His SourceForge page is pretty well put together, and the nice thing is that you can actually download some of his older versions. So that's one thing I'm going to try. I do have it up and running on this machine in a full HD install, but couldn't get the screen recording working quite right. So we're just going to go into a VirtualBox and look at it. But version 21 is now running on 16.04.3, which is long-term of Ubuntu, and that's what I use for my main operating system here in the shack anyway. It's got great support for lots of stuff, much better than Windows. You don't have to worry about USB drivers, things like that. So works great. It's good for ham radio. There's lots of ham radio packages that are available for Ubuntu. But if you're not a Linux guy, or if you're just starting out with Linux, or you just want like a live CD to run when you want to do things, especially if you're into SDR, getting some of the SDR software running sometimes can be kind of a chore. Andy's comes with all of the ham radio software installed that you could possibly need. And it looks like now he is supporting some 32-bit stuff. Of course, the older ones were only 64, which was kind of a downside of it. But at any rate, he's made us a complete operating system for ham radio. It's totally free. You can download it right here, the ISO on his SourceForge page. And I'm going to look him up on QRZ, not right now, but KB10IQ. He's done a really good job, and I really appreciate him putting out stuff like this. Linux can be intimidating to some people, so this makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to go through and install this in a VirtualBox. If you want to take a look at his SourceForge page, it'll give you all of the information you could possibly need. The nice thing is he's got a support page here where you can go in and get help if you need it. This discussion tab is the real secret weapon. I was having a problem logging in after I made a hard drive install. I thought I was having a problem. It ended up I was just typing my username wrong. I put it into Ubuntu in the setup in capital letters, and it just defaulted to lowercase. So you can just go in here and type in your issue, like I typed in login, and it'll bring you in. And here's the exact issue that I had listed. Comes up, so you know it's really good. He responds to all these messages and puts in updates and stuff like that, and he's very aware of this software, and like some of the other ones I've tried, he just doesn't put it up there and then leave it. He really does do a good job supporting, so props to Andy for that. So okay, let's go in and look at getting this up and running. You can see I've downloaded Oracle VirtualBox here, which seems to work just fine. So I've got the ISO downloaded in my downloads folder, so we'll just go in here, select a new one. We'll call this Andy's V21 test, and select Linux. Ubuntu, we're going to do 64-bit since this is a 64-bit computer. Next, I'm going to select a memory size. I'm just going to leave it at, well, you know, we'll ramp it up to 2 gigs here just so everything runs a little bit smoother. We're going to create a virtual hard disk. I'm not going to go into a total tutorial on virtual machine here because I'm just starting out too, so I'm basically just using the recommended settings. I did read the entire wiki on it because I just did, so we're going to create a 10 gigabyte hard drive here. VirtualBox disk image, that's fine. You can go through, if you want to do this, if you want to try it now, you could obviously download this ISO and use a program like UNetBoot in here to just boot off of a SD card or USB stick and do a live boot into your computer to try it out without actually installing it, which is fine. And that works great. I'm just going in, doing it in the VirtualBox here for whatever. So we're going to give it a 10 gigabyte hard drive. Okay, so here we go. Andy's 21 test powered off. We're going to start it, and I'm going to have to select it here from my downloads folder. It's already on my downloads folder because I did it before, but if not, you just go through and drill down into your file manager into the file you want. Here's Andy's V21 64bit.iso. We're going to open that, start it, and it's telling me that I have keyboard capture, which is great. Let me full screen this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit live. And basically this will just be the same as doing a USB install. Alright, and here we go. We're going to start booting this. And I have to remember how to full screen this properly. There we go, full screen mode. Switch. It should scale up. We can get rid of these messages, just telling me that the mouse and cursor is working. So this is in real time, and this is exactly what would happen if you were to install the live CD or the live USB stick. So the default password is Ubuntu. Enter for the password, or the default login, excuse me. So here we go. This is it. This is it's based on Ubuntu 16.04. It uses the XFCE desktop, I believe, which is great. There's no Unity, there's no BS right here. There's different skins that you can use to make this a little bit more exciting for backgrounds and stuff, but basically this is a very lightweight distribution. If you have an older laptop sitting around that you want to use, you know, like an older Windows XP or Windows Vista laptop, it'd probably run on that. I think he says minimum 1 gig processor and a gig of memory. You know, that's pretty old by today's standards. So if you had something that was, you know, a little bit newer. So right now we're running with 2 gigs of RAM in a VirtualBox. So anyway, real simple. Down here you got all your basic controls. Here's a terminal that'll pop up. And here's your web browser. It runs the Midori web browser, which I find very pleasing. If you've been looking to get rid of Google or you just want a very basic, lightweight experience, Midori is the way to go. He's got Firefox installed in here too. I had no problem with Midori on the full install, and you can see it pops up to his website here as a homepage. But I ran YouTube in full HD on this, and it ran better than it did in Chrome. So props to Midori for having a good lightweight web browser that seems to have all the current packages. I haven't tried anything Java or Flash or anything like that. So, but here you go, just a regular start menu. If you're coming from Windows or anything like that, this will be familiar to you. Easy to use. So here we go. He's got all this stuff pre-installed. So you can see here's Firefox pre-installed. You've also got a big font browser, which is nice, or terminal, if you're like me and your eyesight's not as good. So let's go ahead and pop right into the amateur radio side. In a VirtualBox, unfortunately, my rtl-sdr dongle will not work. I can't sort out the USB pass-through for this because of the weird driver issues with the RTL sticks. But anyway, you can see the antenna stuff he's got here. He's got Rig Expert, XNEC, some examples built in, which is good if you're into designing your own antennas. Got a bunch of CD programs here. They're supposed to work pretty good. Wordsworth is a CW learning program, which is good. He's also got ebook to CW, which, according to what I read in his features layout, you can download an ebook and convert it to CW, which is good for practice, things like that. So, pretty neat. Here's all the good software for CW. He's got all the digital mode software in here. Direwolf, Echolink, FreeDV, FLDigi should be familiar to a lot of you guys. You've heard a lot of that. And here is an up and running version of FLDigi, so that you can do your digital modes through your sound card. You can go through. We'll go through real quick. I don't mind if this video is too long because this is really a full review here. So you can go in and set up FLDigi, and it will work with your sound card through configuration, and you can get this decoding CW or RTTY or any of the other digital modes. It's really got a lot of digital modes that you can use. So if you've been using some weird digital mode software on Windows or something like this, give FLDigi a try. It'll also, I've used it before to decode SSB, and it simply, with the waterfall here, I was kind of able to see some interesting audio features, which is pretty cool. So FLDigi works great. It's kind of a standard for digital modes on Linux. I believe it runs on Windows too, but why I'd want to do that, I don't know. We go back into here. So you've got some other good ones. PSK, QSS TV will handle slow scan TV, amateur TV, which is nice. WSJT for weak signal. Some packet radio ones. WeatherFax will decode WeatherFax. You can capture a WeatherFax transmission in GQRX, which I'll show you here in a minute, and record it and play it back into WeFax, and it'll actually decode and give you the graphical representation of that WeatherFax, which is kind of cool. So there's a bunch of stuff here. TinyTrack 3 works with the TinyTrack 3, obviously, so you can get that up and running. And I have not checked out FreeDV, but FreeDV, I guess, is for you guys doing like the DMR type stuff. So, or you know what? Let's just open it instead of guessing. You can always go into About here. Yeah, digital voice. So that'll work with digital voice. And one thing I noticed about the way he sets all this stuff up is, obviously, it's the latest versions. Some of this hardware or software, is very easy to set up. You just, either download it from a repository or add a PPA, or just do a sudo apt-get from the command line. Sometimes you can just go right to the website and hit download it, and it'll open an archive manager or a package manager. But some of them, getting all the dependencies right is really the problem, and getting everything up and running. So if you're not really good with Linux, I'm still cutting my teeth on Linux. I'm still learning, because there's so much that really goes on with Linux. Like I said, I'm using it as my daily driver now. I've been into Ubuntu since version 10 dot something, but this is a good way to just go in, have a pre-built system ready to go, either installing it, and if you have a Windows computer that you're still using or something, when you do this install from a USB stick and then hit install to hard drive, which is down here, if you hit install to hard drive, it's gonna ask you a bunch of questions, but one of the setup options is install alongside your current operating system, which is what I've done here on this computer. So it doesn't erase your current files or operating system. You can install Ubuntu or Andes here right next to what you have, and lo and behold, it'll even allow you to adjust the amount of hard disk partition that you give to this version. So like on my computer, I've got a 500 gig hard drive in this thing. I gave it 100 gigs. I don't plan on storing a lot of files with it or anything like that, since it's basically going to be just, I'm going to go in here to use these tools instead of clogging up my other Ubuntu installation. There's one of the issues that you run into, or that I've run into anyway, and maybe it's because I'm a noob at Linux, is when you start installing a bunch of different packages in Linux, you can get into some trouble because it'll change dependencies and you'll get things that it installs, and then you uninstall something and it uninstalls a dependency that you need, or a file or something like that, and it can turn into a mess really quick. Now the nice thing is you can just back up your home folder pretty easily to something and then just reinstall it. You know, unlike Windows, I don't have to type in any type of weird key. There's obviously no money involved, so it really makes it kind of flexible and in essence foolproof. So yeah, you could install this next to your current operating system, whatever you have, and then just boot into this. When you boot your computer up, it's going to give you the option of what operating system you want to boot. Just boot into Andy's and you're on your way. So that's a really good option, and this will work, like I said, on some older hardware too. I'm going to try it on a very old laptop that I have and see how smoothly it runs. So it's very lightweight. Anyway, let's get back in here. Some electronic design stuff he's got in here. And KiCad pre-built, which is nice. You want to go in and do electronic design. It's got a PCB layout program, which I need to still play with. Resistors is kind of cool. You can type in your band colors here, and it'll pop you out your resistor value, which is nice. Let's see, back into here. There's so much stuff. This is going to be a long video because I'm not even going to try and run all of these programs, just looking at all of them. He's got some spice models. And here goes the fan on my other computer ramping up, so it may get noisy here in a second. But another schematic problem, some spice. It's got a UI for the spice model, which is something I still need to get into. And then there's a Smith chart program, so you can get a Smith chart going. Kind of nice. And let's see. The only thing I noticed that it didn't have, and I think is because it's not FOSS software, is it doesn't include Arduino in electronic design or programming. Obviously easy to install, but would have been nice to see Arduino in here. I guess not everybody's into Arduino like I am, so whatever. You know, Arduino around just about anything now. So HF propagation, you got beacons, DF cluster, some solar data, a nice sun clock. There's a couple logging programs. CQR log is probably one of the top ones right there, so you can do your electronic logging. Something I need to get running is rig control on Linux. I'd like to be able to use my 857. I found a way to do it in Chrome. It'll just give me the VFO readout since my display on my 857 is broken, but it works good enough. But here we go. We got Chirp. Chirp, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about Chirp. Hey, there we go. So that you can program your radios, and I may do an entire video just on Chirp because it's really fantastic. Like my older ICOM IC2720, I've got the OP1, is that what it is? Well, the USB programmer for the IC2720, and I can plug it in with Chirp and program all my memories. It really works fantastic. So I'm going to try and get, where was I? Some of these programs up and running in a separate video, but you've also got G-Rig and FL-Rig, which are two rig control programs. I was playing around with this a little bit. I need to get, obviously, my transceiver up and running. I'm not getting it, even in Windows, using Ham Radio Deluxe, it has a problem connecting. I think it's because of the adapter that I'm using has two different serial ports in one USB device, which confuses things. But you can get in here and use FL-Rig, and also in FL-Digi there's a rig control with the HamLib library. you can actually control it through FLDigi and some other stuff. So pretty cool. And some satellite problems. We got EarthTrack, gpredict I've used many times. Here's HamFax, Fox 1A, which is good. gpredict is a fantastic little program. This will show you. You go in and you have to set your you've got to set where your home point is. Right now it's somewhere over in Copenhagen, but like if once you set it to Florida, it'll show you where all the passes are of all the satellites of the ISS. So if you're trying to work satellites, or like when the ISS passes by, you can go out in your driveway with a decent handy-talkie or a scanner even, and pick up the transmissions from the ISS. It's pretty cool. So, but it'll show you all your passes when it's coming, and you can set it for different satellites, and there's a lot of adaptability in this, and it's a very, very good program. So I have used that before successfully. Again, not going to go into full detail here because this would be a 2-hour video. I don't even know where we are now. Hopefully we're still recording. This will be the longest screen capture I've done, and hopefully being in VirtualBox like this. If not, well, it's just a good practice for what we're doing here. So, and then the big one that most people want to do, software-defined radio. Dream is a DRM receiver, which I believe only works maybe over in Europe. I'm not sure, but GRC, GNU Radio Companion, works great. Quisk is a very small, lightweight, a little SDR program, probably suited better for some sound card type stuff. And it doesn't want to start. There it is. So you can go in and set that up. To get some decoding going, and I believe it's got transmit options too. But the one that I'm most familiar with and that I use on a regular basis is GQRX. Installing GQRX on any Ubuntu system is pretty straightforward. Sudo apt-get install GQRX-SDR, and it installs a pretty big package because it's installing all of GNU Radio. So you would go in here and select which radio you're using. If you have a rtl-sdr stick plugged in, it'll show up as Realtek RL2832. You just select that. I think we can go in here and just, let's select a Spectrum server, just see if we can get this open. GQRX is a fantastic program, again worthy of its own video. Running a little bit slow to open here in VirtualBox. Come on, you can do it. I don't know if it's going to open. Yep, edit settings, Spectrum server. We're just going to hit other here. Oh, no, that won't give you a device string. Oh, look, there's Pluto SDR. That's the Analog Devices new little SDR based on their Agile RF transceiver that I want to play with. Maybe one of you guys can send me one of those so we can get that up and running. I would really like one of those new Pluto SDRs. It's got a transmit too, so I'd like to try it with some ham radio band stuff. Obviously designed for, can I get into, let's try an RF space. It gives me a device string. There we go. Obviously the Pluto SDR is designed for IoT and Wi-Fi and higher band stuff development, but it'll go down into the ham bands. You can get it working on 70 centimeter and above, so 800 megahertz. I'd like to try that out. So GQRX is great. I find it a very easy to use program. Once you get your system set up here, you just press play. It gives you your Spectrum output or your Pin adapter, your waterfall down here. Easy to use. You got all your input controls here, so here you can go ahead and select all your different modes. Wide FM, narrow FM, stereo, AM, upper and lower sideband, CW, all that stuff. You can change your filter shape and width, which is nice. It's got built-in noise blinkers that work fantastic. So you got a lot of adjustability there. Your input controls. You can do your frequency correction for your SDR stick. I'll show you how to do that in a different video, which makes reception a lot easier, because when you tune to a frequency, it actually shows up at the right frequency. So gives you your audio waterfall down here. Your FFT settings is nice. You can zoom in on a frequency, so you can really look at it close if you got something really weak. You can adjust the amount of pan adapter to waterfall. So if you want to look more at the signal than you do at the waterfall that's down here, that's nice. You can change the color. I personally like the green, which you'll see when that pops up, which won't on this video, unfortunately. But yeah, so GQX is great. And also, it's got an AFSK 1200 decoder, which will show you APRS information coming through when you tune to your APRS frequency. So works great. This is the latest version. Andy released version 21 a while ago, but it looks like the latest version of all these packages. You can always go in and do a sudo apt-get update and get into there. So other than that, the documentation is great. You can go in and get all your information from there. It's got your basic system stuff in here. Utilities, it gives you everything you really need utility-wise to have, this stuff going on. So it is a full-featured operating system. You could use this as a daily driver. There's a lot of other stuff in here. There's a magnifier for those with not so good vision, which happens. There's some games built in. But if you look in here, this is another breakout of how everything works. There's some text editors. There's your file management, graphics. Here's some of your network stuff. I didn't have any problem connecting to Wi-Fi or anything like that. Here's some more programming languages. This is kind of neat in the science thing. It breaks it out, XPlanet. There's your electronics, sun clock. So it kind of breaks it out that way. A couple different shells, Bastash, your sound system, terminal emulators, so you can get into different terminals, and then some different viewers if you want to view Gerber files and stuff like that. So it's really comprehensive. You can add different things to your toolbar down here. You can have a couple different screens going, that type of stuff. Show you all your different windows. And like I said, you can change the look and feel of this. If you go into utilities, system, where was it? Where did I see? Settings, maybe. Yep. In settings, you can change your theme. So it's kind of strange the way this looks, but basically you can go in here and it's got all these different themes that you can set for your background and stuff like that. Let's just get into a green one here. Beep. So that just changes that, and you can see it changes the look of your start menu here. That looks like some old Windows 95 stuff there. That's great. What do we got here? Metal 2. There's some pretty cool ones, but anyway. And you can always go back to default here, which, I mean, I don't mind. Like, once you open up a program, you're really not too worried about what you're looking at back here anyway. So the contrast is fine for me, especially on this monitor. So anyway, that's Andy's Ham Radio Linux there. It works good. I haven't tried opening up the Firefox browser. So a lot of you are probably more familiar with Firefox. The new Firefox is supposed to be extremely fast. Obviously, we're not having that experience here. Some things aren't going to run right in the VirtualBox anyway. let's see, how do I get out of... Alright, there we go. Oh, now it's opening. So yeah, it's got everything you need. It could be a daily driver with a few more packages installed. Like I said, just install an Arduino, you're ready to go. So let's go ahead and log out of this. And we will get back into here. Alright, so there you go. That's Andy's Ham Radio Linux. Works good. And we're going to send it an AP. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's going to try and shut it down that way. If I do a file close that way, we'll hit power off machine. Boom. Alright, so you guys go check out Andy's Ham Radio Linux. Download it. It's you'll need a 4 gigabyte or larger USB stick, as it is a full 1604 installation. If you really have some older software, you might want to think about getting in an older version. Like I said, I'm going to test that out. I've got a little netbook that I want to try and install it on, just to like run single programs on there, like have you know, FL-Digi running just on its own little machine and use a sound card and stuff like that. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. We're trying to build this channel bigger and bigger every day. So if you guys have any stuff that you really do want to see, make sure you leave it in the comments. Also, follow me on Twitter at KK4PYN. I do some updates on there. And please help me build this channel by backing me on Patreon, patreon.com/KK4PYN. I will leave links to all that down in the description, and links to where you can download this fantastic operating system also. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out and watching this with me today. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something. Like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them for me, and I do try and get back as soon as I can. So you guys have a great day. 73, and stay tuned. There's always more to come.